All right, everybody, welcome into a new live edition of the Patriots Beat podcast here on the CLNS Media Network. Huge day in the NFL, huge day for the Patriots. I think I've used this analogy on the show before, but you know Steve Ballmer when he bought the Clippers and he goes
Yeah.
nuts and he's clapping and that's what I feel like today. It's a good day for many reasons, and we're going to start off the bat with our new sponsor, Alex. Huge news out of CLNS Media, the biggest acquisition of the week. CLNS Media and FanDuel are now partnering now that Massachusetts has legalized sports betting mobily, fully. And so go to fanduel.com/Boston. I'm telling you, sign up through that link. Free bets, $200 of bonus bets. Deposit $10, make a bet for $5, and then it's like literally free money. I just made a bet, and the app is super easy. Actually, tonight you can bet on the Celtics to score a point, even money. You can bet $50, you win $50, free money. Use your bonus bets for that, so you don't even have to deposit that much besides the initial $10. So go to fanduel.com/Boston. It really helps out the show. It really helps us out at CLNS, but it's also going to help out you make a ton of money. So again, fanduel.com/Boston. And now I can talk about gambling on the YouTube airwaves. We used to not be able to do that before, but now I can talk about anything. So FanDuel, fanduel.com/Boston. All right, let's get into it, Alex. It is free agency. Today, the NFL's legal tampering window opened up, and teams are now allowed to, teams are now allowed to speak with players. Agents are allowed to negotiate on their players' behalf, and deals can be agreed to but not officially signed until Wednesday. So a ton of news going on across the league. And what first happened, I guess, with the Patriots is that they came in with a splash and decided to trade Jonnu Smith to the Falcons for a 7th-round pick. Jonnu's tenure in Foxborough obviously did not go as planned. He was a free agency Monday splash basically 2 years ago today, signing a 4-year, $50 million contract. He didn't surpass 300 yards in a season. He only had 55 catches over 2 years. And, I kind of thought that with Bill O'Brien coming here, a new offensive mind, sort of a reset for this entire offense, that maybe Jonnu could use his skill set to their advantage, but they're not even going to try it. So they dump him to his former coach, Arthur Smith, for a 7th-round pick. So thoughts on the move?
Yeah. I first of all, we had people in the chat back in February saying the Patriots should give up like a top 100 pick to move Jonnu Smith's contract. Didn't need to do that.
Yeah.
I think this is pretty much they had to do it. And look, it would have been cool to see what Jonnu Smith could have been in the Bill O'Brien's offense and see how you unlock him, because I don't necessarily think the issue is that Jonnu Smith is a bad player. And if people remember back that spring leading up to that free agency, me and Evan, that was one of our first big debates on this show. Should the Patriots sign Jonnu Smith or Hunter Henry? They were clearly the two top tight ends in free agency. I happen to be team Hunter Henry in that one.
So you went out here.
I did win, and I texted that to Evan today. I've officially won. That being said, I don't think Jonnu Smith's necessarily a non-talented player. I think he does some things. I think the problem is he was probably built up to be more than he was. And then on top of that, the Patriots didn't know how to use him. And this is something I said at the time. They have trouble with scheme touch players. N'Keal Harry was another example. I actually think there's a lot of similarities between Jonnu Smith's tenure in New England and N'Keal Harry's tenure in New England. So it's a shame they could never figure out how to use him. I think even if they did, he wasn't ever going to play up to that contract, but could he have been comparable to Hunter Henry, who was still like a replacement level player? Yeah, I think in theory, there probably was a way to do that they missed out on. But instead of compounding down on the mistake, they just move on. They open up a spot now to really take advantage of this tight end class. And they open up some money as well. And we'll see how they use the money. The trade, I'd like to trade a little bit better when they made it. And there were all these guys who are still on the board that aren't now.
Right.
But I don't think it's a bad move, right? Oh, they only got
a 7th. It's a 7th.
They got the money off the books.
That's not the return. The return in this deal is the fact that they create about $4 million in cap space this year, and then they create $18 million more in 2024. That's the return. Don't think about the 7th-round pick. If you could just give a team a player, that would have been good here in this trade. You just dump the salary without anything in return. That's basically what this was. They do like to have picks in, sort of in every round. And so they did pick up a 7th-round pick that they did not have before. So, maybe that's ammo to trade up. Maybe that's ammo for, trading up on day 3, whatever it may be. They added a 7th-round pick, but again, they make room for $4 million more this year, and then they also have $18 million more in 2024. So at the end of the day, that's what the Jonnu Smith deal is. Adding on to that, they now have another hole in the tight end room. It felt like they had a hole before. We've talked about the tight ends in the draft class here on this show, and we sort of speculated that they could still add to the room even if Henry and Smith were still here. Now they basically only have Hunter Henry. Does this make them a potential team, whether it's the 15th pick with Michael Mayer, whether it's the 46th pick with a Darnell Washington, a Dalton Kincaid, depending on how the rest of the week goes, does this make tight end that much bigger of a need early in the draft? I think so. Okay.
I don't really think so because, again, you still have Hunter Henry. Oh, maybe in the draft.
Yeah.
Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith played the position 2 very different ways, right?
Sure.
Where Hunter Henry is your traditional tight end. Jonnu Smith was more of that move tight end. All these top free agents are like the same mold as Hunter Henry.
Right.
So unless you're going to put them both on the field at the same time, which I just don't think they're going to do because they already have enough of a problem of defenses playing too big against them.
Right.
I don't think that makes a ton of sense. Now in the draft, I'm pretty much where I've been in that Hunter Henry's in a contract year and use this year as a bridge year. Go draft a high upside guy on day 3.
Okay.
There's maybe a little more urgency now because that guy's going to be the direct backup.
That's what I was going to say. Who's your backup tight end now? I mean,
yeah, I mean,
tough.
I still think, but that probably would have been the case even before. Maybe now you look at a guy in the 4th or 5th instead of the 6th or 7th. Maybe a guy like Sam Laporta or Luke Schoonmaker or Tucker Kraft is more in the discussion than a guy like Zach Kuntz. But I don't think they need like this comment. Michael Mayer, no, Mayer still is absolutely not the answer. All he does is, he doesn't prevent teams from stacking the box against you. That's what they need if they're going to use a premium asset on a skilled player. They need a guy who is going to be a threat on the outside of the formation, not tucked in line. So Michael Mayer doesn't help you. He's going to end up being a better player than Hunter Henry, but year 1, Michael Mayer, and year 6, year 7, whatever it is, Hunter Henry are similar players.
Yeah.
So it doesn't push it to that regard. And look, if that's what they do, it's not a great move. Now you've essentially done what you did with Shaq Mason last year,
right,
where you traded a player for nothing to create a hole that you then use your best asset to fill. They can't do that again. They just did that. It didn't work.
And I would argue it would be a reach just like the Cole Strange pick was. Look, I get Michael
Not
Mayer,
as much of a reach, but yeah, you're not
But
wrong.
That's my point is I don't see him as the, again, this is maybe a bad way to look at it, but I don't see him as like the 15th best player in this class. I just don't. I'm not as high on him as other people, but I think, again, with the other needs they have, continuing on a tackle and wide receiver and cornerback, because, granted, and we'll get to it, they re-signed John Jones today, but they still have a big hole there. I don't think that would be smart at all, realistically, to, create this hole on your own and then go draft Michael Mayer at 15. It doesn't make sense. I don't see it. So Hunter Henry, now the lone guy, essentially, in the tight end room. Contract year, new offensive coordinator, healthy, had a rapport with Mac Jones. He'll be the center focus in that room. So, maybe it's a blessing in disguise for Hunter Henry in the tight end room. But Jonnu Smith gone to his old coach, Arthur Smith, in Atlanta. Hopefully he can rekindle some of that. Man, I was watching, I tweeted it a few weeks ago, a couple weeks after Bill O'Brien was hired. And it was Jonnu Smith, basically highlights from Tennessee, and just how they used him there was exactly what I wanted them to do here. And, hand him the football, use him as a move tight end, get him the ball in space. And they couldn't get it done.
They never did it right. They never did it.
It's awful. But that's that. Jonnu Smith is now an Atlanta Falcon. At least will be officially on Wednesday. The other big Patriots move today, Alex, they re-signed cornerback Jonathan Jones to a 2-year contract. According to Mike Giardi from NFL Network, Jonathan Jones could have commanded more money on the market, and instead he decided to take a team-friendly deal. I think that's huge. it's a Patriots move because they only make the team-friendly deal and they don't go make the big splash yet. It's still early, obviously, but the parameters of the deal, according to Doug Hyde from A to Z Sports, 2 years for $19 million, $7.5 million signing bonus, $13 million guaranteed. He can make up to $50K in playing time incentives every year. The base salary this year is only 1.5, and next year is only 8. So he said it last week. John Jones held an event and said that he wanted to stay in New England. He knows it here, wanted to come back, and the deal clearly echoes that. So it helps because they already had holes from Devin McCourty's retirement, which we'll talk about that later on in the show as well. Holes there in the safety room, holes in the cornerback room, but they fill one with Jonathan Jones, so they at least add a familiar face to their defensive back room.
Yeah, and the money isn't, like he put his money where his mouth is, saying that he wanted to be back here. That's a very team-friendly deal, and I know a lot of people had suggested that he's maybe the deep safety that replaces Devin McCourty, and my initial thought on that was kind of, well, for what they're probably going to have to pay him,
right?
You don't pay a guy cornerback money and then play him at safety. It's just not a good use of assets. But for the money they got him for, you can be a little more flexible because you now have more money to spend elsewhere, because they still have that need for the bigger boundary corner. And I see some people in the chat talking about the Jalen Mills tweet, reminding people that he plays safety and he's a hybrid. Well, if that's going to be the case, even more so, because he's your tallest corner right now, they've got to get some height at that position. And there's a number of ways they can do that. And something I had said was, if Jones doesn't come back, that was something I maybe wanted them to do through free agency, because I liked having a veteran in that room. And if you lost Jones, it was going to be a very young room.
Right.
I feel a lot better now. And I was already pretty high on this, people know, but I feel a lot better now of, all right, can you go get the big corner in the draft? Can you go on day 2 and get, a Tyreek Stevenson, a Julius Brents, Darius Rush, if he falls in the second round, right? Can you go add that guy on day 2 of the draft? And then boom, there's your size at corner. So that feels good. So, I think we'll get to what's gone on around the league in a little bit with everything else, but this is a move I think worth celebrating. This was very well done by the Patriots. Now, given everything
else,
the
rest of it in. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I would just say, given everything else they've done or haven't done, however you want to phrase that, it rings a little hollow.
Yeah.
But this move on its own, and look, there's still a lot of time left. Maybe they figure it out, and we can kind of revisit this in a different light. But this move on its own was a great move. It was.
Yeah, I think
it is, however you want to phrase it.
Looping in, I guess, other moves around the league with the Jonathan Jones. Are there numbers out, do you know, for Jamel Dean's contract yet?
I'm trying to find it was Jordan Schultz has it.
I see it too. Schefter has
52. I think it was 52.26 guaranteed.
Okay, so that's about
over 4 years. Jonathan Jones only got 2.
Yeah, 13 per. So I mean, again, I know that agents know the market as it's going, but look, if Jonathan Jones and his agent maybe even waited a little bit, they probably still could have squeezed even more money out of somewhere than they did just with that Dean.
Well, the Dean deal too was reported to be a team-friendly deal. Was reported to be a hometown discount. Yeah. So now, look, there was the report from Giardi last week, right, that teams viewed Jonathan Jones still as a slot corner, even though he played on the boundary last year. I don't think he was getting Jamel Dean money.
Right.
But he very clearly, most definitely left money on the table, not just signing for what he signed for, but signing as early as he did. I even think, like, if he waits, that team-friendly deal is probably worth a little more than it ended up being.
Yeah. Yeah, I tend to I wonder, and again, it's so early, but I wonder where this goes. And I look at the Mills tweet, and it's like, how are they going to configure this room? I mean, they're going to make another move. Whether it's remember they signed Terence Mitchell 4 days into it last year for a cheaper.
Yeah, and then he didn't make the team.
Yeah, I mean, it was a thought at the time where he's going to slide in. So I guess we'll see. I mean, it's and I do it myself, right? You kind of overreact a little bit because you see guys go and you see the Patriots are maybe involved, not really, but it's only Monday, right? I mean, this thing isn't really even official until Wednesday, so even more is going to start to come.
Well, look, I mean, that's true, but as they say, as Felger and Maz like to say, and I know people roll their eyes at Felger and Maz, but I think this is a good point. We have to do a show today.
Right.
And today, and I kind of just suggest this, right? If things go the other way, maybe we look at it. We come back tomorrow. We say, wow, they really rebounded, and we give them all the credit for it. But as things stand right now, there's deals being made, and they're not making them.
Right. So, all right, I'll let you take us next. Do you want to do tackle or wide receiver?
Yeah, let's do the wide receiver thing because I think people are curious about that.
Yeah, let's do it.
It sounds like the Broncos are shopping all their guys.
Yep.
Now, you almost kind of have. Here's what I would tell people. And I just kind of gave my piece on, I think the Patriots are being relatively inactive. Mm-hmm. The market's really developed by position.
Yep.
And the wide receiver position has not budged. So this is one where I look at and I say, all right, well, let's wait and see what happens. I'm not going to kick them for this one yet because I don't know if teams are waiting on Jacoby Myers or Mecole Hardman or the top of the free agency market. The free agents may be waiting on DeAndre Hopkins or Jerry Jeudy or these trades. Odell Beckham's kind of a massive wild card in all of this. Yeah. We have no idea what his value is.
Apparently wants $20 million according.
Yeah, I want things too. It's nice to want things. Jimmy Garoppolo wanted $25 million. It's nice to want things.
We're gonna get to Jimmy, baby.
We're gonna get to Jimmy. We better get to him soon because, as we know, Jimmy Garoppolo does not last long. He'll get hurt soon. Anyway,
34 M's guaranteed regardless.
Yeah, he ripped the Raiders off. Good for Josh McDaniels.
Josh and Dave.
Pitching his career to Jimmy Garoppolo, this staple of reliability that is Jimmy Garoppolo.
Look out, AFC West.
Oh, yeah, look out indeed. Anyway, the point I was making, I think everything I just said, and then on top of that, it's just a down year for wide receiver in general. That's a slower developing market. I'm not super worried about that yet because I think what's probably happening is the teams that have wide receivers to trade, they want to let a couple of the free agents sign to see if teams get desperate and give up too much. And by the way, that was the report with the Cardinals. They didn't want to make a deal until free agency had already been going on. So none of this should be a surprise.
Right.
And I think some of the free agents are probably waiting on Hopkins because they want to see what his new contract's going to be or even Odell. Because if a team does get, maybe kind of puts the ACL thing to the side and says, we're going to pay Odell Beckham like he's Odell Beckham. I don't necessarily think that's going to happen. I wouldn't do it, but all it takes is one team. Now, all of a sudden, if you're Jacoby Myers, if you're Mecole Hardman, you go back to the table and there's a lot more money there that you can ask for, right? So this, as I'm going on this rant, I keep looking over to my screen to see that all these wide receivers started signing, right? But I think this is going to be a slower developing market. Now, that said, we understand the Patriots are in on Hopkins. To what extent, we don't know, but they're talking.
Yep.
I wouldn't be surprised if they're talking to the Broncos. I still think Jerry Jeudy is the best fit, but it would be classic them to kind of, go for one of the other guys, whether it's Sutton or who's the other one they were shopping. It wasn't Patrick,
KJ Hamler.
Right? Was it
Hamler?
Now, Hamler.
That's interesting.
Hamler's,
State, right?
I would rather have Jeudy. I would rather have Jeudy, but Hamler's not a total miss. Courtland Sutton, for me, does not move the needle. He's like a slight upgrade over Devontae Parker, but you're then moving on from Parker. He's not an addition. He's an upgrade. They really need an addition as well as an upgrade. Hamler in the slot, I don't love it, but I don't hate it.
Yeah, me too. It's something.
Rather have Jeudy. Much rather have Jerry Jeudy. But, So that's where I'm at with that. And as for the one other wide receiver rumor that was out today, Philip Dorsett.
Yeah, let's touch it.
People need to calm down on that one. If he's their big move. So I'll say, if Philip Dorsett's their one move at wide receiver this offseason, we can absolutely get all up in arms. My guess would be he's coming back here to compete for the last wide receiver spot on the roster, and he wouldn't make it out of camp. That's going to be like a $2 million contract, $500,000 guaranteed. They're not. And again, if I'm wrong about any of this, we can go nuts. But I would be surprised if they're seriously considering adding Philip Dorsett to the 53-man roster. I think that's more of a 90-man roster kind of move.
I would agree, but, adding to that, look, it's Monday at whatever time that broke, 2:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah, the timing's rough.
Why are they even talking to Dorsett's camp now? That's a move that you don't have to jump on. And I know that it's it may not be Bill or Matt Groh directly making those calls with Dorsett's agent, but And they have other guys that work for them in the front office. But man, if that's what you're spending your time on at the beginning of legal tampering, that Philip Dorsett is talking with the Patriots, that kind of startles me, Alex. Like, I don't see why that's the worry right now. Go talk to. That's like if they signed or we're talking to Terence Mitchell on day one last year, right?
Right.
They made that move later. Yeah. So
the timing's not great, but I'm just like,
timing doesn't help how they look. And
I'm not saying it was great they were talking to him at that time. It's more so just I think people were looking at the timing of the move and think like them talking to Philip Dorsett right away on day one doesn't mean that they see Philip Dorsett as a right away on day one wide receiver. That's just sort of how they do business. They go across the board.
Frankly, look, that the way they do business is not helping them lately because, man, teams are making moves and they're not. I don't know. But we'll see what happens. Again, they're in on Hopkins. They should be in on Judy, or at least be talking to the Broncos about one of these wide receivers because they need help in the wide receiver market. And again, I do see your point there where, it hasn't budged. It hasn't gone anywhere. I think 2 years ago when Nelson Aguilar and Kendrick Bourne signed, I think that, and again, it doesn't look, it's not a good comp right now because those haven't really panned out the way we would have liked them to, but those were sort of late Monday into Tuesday moves as well. So I wouldn't freak out on the wide receiver front yet. Hopkins still has to be moved, and the Broncos are still talking to guys. So one other report I want to get to before we transition to tackles was Jesse Bates. I thought Jesse Bates was just going to be an absolute slam dunk signing if it were to have happened for the Patriots. I've said it 3 times now, but Devin McCourty retired on Friday. They have a big hole in the secondary, and even with John Jones signing, potentially moving to safety, even with Jalen Mills, like he says, potentially moving to safety, that's not good enough. Like, and I know Bates went for a lot of money, but if you're just going to shift guys around and then, rely on a Jack Jones who ended the season suspended, or bring in a rookie who has never played a snap of NFL football in his entire life and just plug him in and shift guys around just to save money that you have to pay, it kind of rubs me the wrong way. And, Jesse Bates, he ends up signing with the Falcons for, I want to find the numbers. I think I had, 4 years, $65 million. So it was hefty. I think it was the 4th highest safety contract in NFL history, according to Ian Rappaport. So, look, he goes for a lot of money, but the Patriots kind of had it to spend, Alex. So what did you think of the Bates move? I thought he was a fit. Mike Reese said he was a fit the other day as well. But what'd you make of the Bates move, and do you think the Patriots should have been in on it?
Yeah, and just to something else Mike had said on Sunday, that he could see a Stephon Gilmore type of move. I mean, I thought that's the guy. That's the move, right? And look, we don't know, the Patriots weren't in on him, to be fair. I haven't seen anything reported one way or the other. Like, maybe they were and they weren't willing to go to that price. That's not to defend them. I think they should have gone to that price, or, look, if they land Jordan Poyer, fine. I'll walk all that back because I think Poyer could help them as well. But
so do I.
I don't love them putting a rookie in that spot. Jonathan Jones is fine, but again, you can't just run it back, right? You've got to get better than you were last year. And can Jonathan Jones give you what Devin McCourty gave you last year? Probably around that. Is he going to be like a massive upgrade? No, I don't think so. And I think Jesse Bates would have been a difference maker on the back end. So, again, we'll see what happens with Poyer. But like you say, it's not like they're getting priced out right now. I don't think they're getting priced out of any of these deals, save maybe, McGlinchey's money was insane. Like, that's the one I look at and I'm like, all right, like, if they didn't do that deal, because there are some warts in McGlinchey's game, like, that could have gone south very quickly. But the Jesse Bates one, such a them player. Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah, I think so too. 26, I feel like he would just complement Kyle Duggar so well, because Kyle Duggar's your strong, your thumper, and Bates can play that, true free position like Devin did. It just felt like such a natural fit, a guy who's young. And look, I know Kyle Duggar's going to have to turn himself into a leader, and we should really focus on, I guess, what they do on the field more so than off the field. But Bates can come in and be an off the field leader. And yeah, they signed John Jones, who's been here often, but look, I think they could have paid that Jesse Bates money, and they didn't. And it look Mike Reese has an inside ear in that building, and for him to have dropped that yesterday told me that they were at least thinking about it. So that's the one where I kind of feel like maybe they did get priced out, and that's tough. We'll talk about them getting priced out on a tackle in just a second, but before we do, I want to get back to it and tell you guys about FanDuel, because FanDuel is here. Massachusetts, listen up. The wait, it's over. It's over. We can bet in the state of Massachusetts. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, is now live in the Commonwealth. New customers in Mass can get in on the action with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. All you got to do is sign up at fanduel.com/Boston. It's right here under us, fanduel.com/Boston. You can bet on all your favorite sports, from money line, point spreads, player props, so much more. Free bets, easy, no-brainers. It's all over the place, and it's right in the app on FanDuel. FanDuel, by far, Alex, I don't know if I'm sure you've downloaded and got your free money, but they have just like the best user interface compared to all the other apps in the state. I feel like it's just so seamless, and you can go for bet to bet. You find your bets, the ones you place, the ones you settle on, etc. It makes using your bonus money that much easier. There's just a quick toggle that you click over, and boom, $200 free bet instantly. All you got to do again is deposit $10 and then make your first $5 bet. The app is safe and it's secure, and like I said, it's super easy to use. So please do not miss out on your chance to get $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. Right below us here on screen, if you're listening, fanduel.com/Boston. Make every moment count. Make every moment more on America's #1 sportsbook. 21 plus and present in Mass. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Hope is here. Gambling Helpline gamblinghelplinema.org, or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support. All right, Alex, let's talk about the tackles. Again, go to fanduel.com/Boston. It's so easy. It's $200. Like, just bet it. The Celtics are on tonight. Do anything with it. It's great. Let's talk tackles. The Patriots need a tackle, and look, tackle money kind of got thrown around today. Mike McGlinchey went to the Broncos for 5 years, $87.5 million total. Juwan Taylor went from the Jags to the Chiefs for 4 years, $80 million. We can get to those in a second, but the one I do want to talk about first, because the Patriots are tied to it, is Andre Dillard.
Yeah.
Played for the Eagles, signed with the Titans today. I believe it was 3 years, $29 million was the final number, according to Mike Giardi. And then Diana Rossini from ESPN reported that the Patriots were competing for the former Eagles tackle before he did ultimately decide to sign in Tennessee. So I look at this two ways, Alex. Look, I know Dillard is not by any means the top of the market, but he's a quality player. He was a quality player for Philly for a while, and or not for a while, excuse me. He's been in the league for, I think, 3 years. But they were competing and they were in on it, and then they ultimately didn't get it done. And he only signed for 3 years and $29 million. So you can look at it that they were in on someone who wasn't at the top of the market. You can look at it as they didn't pay up more than 3 years, $29 million. But the other way you can look at it, which is the way I'm choosing to look at it, they're in on the tackle market. They're trying to make a move at tackle. So I think that's a plus. But I want to get your thoughts on the Andre Dillard move.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of with you on that, in that, like, all right, well, they're in on tackles, but then I look around and who's left?
Right.
There's Caleb McGarry. I wouldn't mind. Caleb McGarry would not be a bad signing. Now, he's probably going to get more money than Dillard. I just think Dillard at that price is a no-brainer. And even if obviously they would have had to go up a little bit because you got to top the Titans. That's what the Titans ultimately gave him. But
yeah,
that was 29. It was 3 years, $29 million total. Total. So you figure even if it's like $20 million guaranteed, right? You can still go up from that, and that's pretty short money for a starting tackle. If they get McGarry, who's probably going to be somewhere in between the Juwan Taylor and the Andre Dillard contract, so call it $50 million, something like that. Like that'd be fine. But you get an Orlando Brown, you get in a Donovan Smith, you get in a Kelvin Beachum, and you have guys that have big ifs.
Right.
So I do think they're in on the tackle market, but I think the tackle market might have passed them by, really. If McGarry goes, that's kind of it.
Right. Yeah, and I know, but so let's talk about the rest of it then, because McGlinchey, right tackle, goes for 5 years, $87 million. You think that's too much for a guy like McGlinchey?
I don't think it's too much. It's what the market dictates, but like
Sure.
that has the potential to be a tough contract.
Yeah.
Right? If he doesn't perform to that, like that's not really a contract you can hide. Kind of like what the Jonnu Smith contract was for the Patriots. Like that, you got to be really sure about the guy. And if they're not really sure about Mike McGlinchey, I don't have a problem with them passing on that contract.
Sure.
Same goes for Juwan Taylor, especially because the Chiefs are going to try to move him to the left side, a position he's never played. And that there's risk there. Like that to me kind of stood out. Dillard, to me, again, that's the one where I'm like, even if there is risk there for the money, that's a good risk. Like you don't run the risk of that contract becoming an albatross.
It almost feels like the risk they took with Trent Brown a few years ago, right? A guy who, he was a seventh round pick, but he impressed in San Francisco enough to be traded for by the Patriots. They then they passed on signing him to the big deal with the Raiders, but I mean they paid him for shorter money twice, took a chance on him, and it paid off, right? Both times, I'd say, really.
Yeah, I mean, look, they gave like a 5th round pick to get him, and he really wasn't making that much. So I don't know that it's exactly comparable, but yeah, like they've trusted their ability to coach up offensive linemen in the past,
right?
So
yeah, I mean, again, I guess we'll see what happens with the rest of the tackle market, but yeah, Juwan Taylor going to the Chiefs, which in turn opens up Orlando Brown. Orlando Brown he's going to price out both of these guys, and he's going to get a bag. So, should or will or do you think, and would you want him in New England?
I mean, it depends on the price, right? And
he's going to price those guys out. He's the best tackle on the market.
But that
don't you think?
I don't know. Well, so here's the thing: he was the best tackle on the market because he was a left tackle. But remember, the Chiefs moved him from the right side to the left side. So, like, are you moving him back to the right side? Because at that point, I still think McGlinchey's better.
Okay.
So, and what are the Patriots doing with him? Are they signing him to play on the right side, or are they signing him to play on the left side? Like, you get in it. I also it's a little bit of a red flag to me. The Chiefs didn't want him back. Like, think about it. They were going to franchise him. That was the report. And then it was, well, they're not going to franchise him, but they're going to try to get a deal done. And now they're just out. Like, they could realistically sign him with Taylor. And they're just out. So I feel like there's something going on there that we don't know.
That's a fair point. And one that I actually hadn't really thought of, because again, it's a guy who you just won a Super Bowl with on the left side. So clearly he's good enough to play at that position for a team that's Super Bowl caliber. At the end of the day, I mean, look, there's a lot of salary cap talk here. Money's money, and they can make it work if the player's worth it. If Kansas City doesn't think he's worth it, then maybe he's not worth it. So that's not a bad way to look at this. All right, let's move to – I'm just trying to see. I think we should go, Alex, with AFC East moves. We'll talk some AFC East moves, and then we'll hit the rest of free agency, your Jimmy G's and things like that. But yesterday, the Miami Dolphins traded for Jalen Ramsey from the LA Rams. They sent a 3rd-round pick and tight end Hunter Long to LA. I know that you're not a Ramsey guy.
Yeah.
And I know they are, I believe, restructuring his deal, if I have that correct. And so this was a move that I think the Patriots should have made. I mean, you send a 3rd-round pick and call it, I mean, who's your throw-in? Who's comparable to Hunter Long for the Patriots as your throw-in?
Miles Bryant.
Sure. Okay, perfect. So you send a 3rd-round pick and Miles Bryant to the Rams on a team that needs cornerback help like the Patriots do. I think it's worth it. In turn, the Jets are likely to sign Aaron Rodgers, so everyone around you is getting better. I wrote about this today on CLNSmedia.com. You can check it out. The Patriots on FanDuel, might I add, are the longest shot on the board to win the AFC East at 7-1. Behind the Bills, behind the Jets, behind the Dolphins, it's the lowly Patriots in the AFC East. So everyone's making moves, and you're standing pat. Dolphins go get Ramsey. I think the Patriots should have done it. What do you think? What do you say?
No, I'm okay with them passing on this. Okay. And that's, again, that's not to say they don't need an elite corner. I just don't think that's what Ramsey is. Giving him 2 years guaranteed at over $20 million, like that's a really suffocating contract if he isn't a top 5 corner in the league. And I don't think he is. I watched him last year. Remember, you know that in the people who love to dump on the Patriots, they've said it nonstop for the last 2 years. Oh, it doesn't count when they win because they don't beat good teams. They beat up on bad opponents, and then they get tossed around by good teams. That's Jalen Ramsey. Go look at Jalen Ramsey game by game last year. He struggled against every single quality opponent he faced, except for the Chiefs, who don't have an elite wide receiver, or didn't last year anyway. If you're going to pay that price, go get somebody worth it. I just don't. And when I say,
but if you pay that price, you're not going to get somebody that's on Ramsey's level. You're just
no, but I'm talking about with the contract too.
But the Patriots have the money not the money to burn, but they have the money in salary cap space to take a risk on someone like Ramsey when you're only giving up a third and, like we say, a Miles Bryant.
I'd rather give up a third, a player, and what's probably going to end up being less money for Jerry Jeudy or DeAndre Hopkins or any of those guys.
Especially now that we've seen the Jonathan Jones move. That's a fair point.
Right. Then do this deal with Ramsey. 2-3 years ago, yes, of course. The reality of the situation is if Jalen Ramsey was still that good, he would have gone for more. And he probably wouldn't have been available. Right? And people are going to, the Rams needed to cut cap. And somebody had to go. All right, well, they could have gotten rid of Cooper Kupp, who was costing them more money than Jalen Ramsey was. They could have gotten rid of Aaron Donald, who's costing them more money than Jalen Ramsey is. Why was Jalen Ramsey the odd man out? Why was he the one that the Rams decided, that's going to be the guy we move to save cap space? This is not a defend the wall, the Patriots are never wrong thing. I just don't think people have an understanding of the player Jalen Ramsey is at this point in his career. I have no problem with them moving those assets. They need to move assets. They need to spend money, but they need to spend it smartly. They can't go throwing good money after bad. And I think that's what a Ramsey deal would be.
And I think bad's a stretch, but again, if it's that cheap and all you got to do is spend money, I mean, money's money at the end of the day. And he's a decent player who can give you something at the cornerback position. But I understand your point, and it makes a ton of sense with the Rams, where they need to get under the cap, and they have a ton of good players that they can do it with. Jalen Ramsey is the worst of the good players. So I guess, that's a fair point. Let's, before we hit on the rest of free agency, let's talk about Aaron Rodgers to the New York Jets. It's still in limbo, but it looks like, by just about all accounts, it's basically just Aaron Rodgers, who, by the way, said that he does not want to drag this thing out, completely dragging this thing out. It's up to Rodgers. I believe the report is that the Jets and Packers essentially have the parameters in place for a trade, and it's basically just a big green button for Aaron Rodgers to be able to press and go to New York. So we've talked about it on the show, but now that it's really going to happen, it seems like, what do you make of the Jets with Aaron Rodgers? Does it immediately – I think it immediately catapults them to 1B, right behind the Bills in the division. You hate the Bills, so I'm sure it's going to – they're probably the number one team in the division for you, but let's hear it.
Well, the Bills have lost a lot of talent. Let's not forget. Edmonds are probably going to lose Poyer, right? I think, and I've said the regression is due. It depends which Aaron Rodgers the Jets get, frankly. Mm-hmm. If they get pissed off at the world Aaron Rodgers, like the Packers had at the start of last year, then they're right there with the Bills, and I think they're probably that second tier in the AFC behind. Really, it's just the Chiefs and the Bengals at this point. Right. If they get, I don't care about football anymore, and I'm just going to be like a moody, curmudgeon Aaron Rodgers, well, still slightly better than last year, but I think they're probably closer to the Dolphins and maybe even the Patriots. Right. Obviously has the potential to be a very explosive move, at least. And the other thing is in the regular season, because we know what Aaron Rodgers becomes in the playoffs, right?
Sure.
I think he can still play physically. And you put him on that roster, and I said it all year last year, that team was a quarterback away. You put him on that roster, they should win 12, 13 games. Now, does he actually show up and play all those games? Right. I'm not even saying he won't. I don't know. He's the most predictable person in the league. He's the NFL's answer to Kyrie Irving.
Unpredictable, but yes.
But if you're the Jets, I kind of think you have to take that risk at this point. Now, look, if I was them, I'd tell him, hang on a second here. We're going to go call the Ravens and see what's going on with Lamar.
Yeah.
Not that there's not risk there either. It's a risk I'd rather take.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if you're the Jets, it's kind of the move you need to make at this point. So I don't fault them for making it, but they're rolling the dice a little bit. We'll see. The upside's tremendous, and the downside is pretty much they're back where they were. They're going to be back where they were now this time next year.
Yeah. I mean, they have great players at just about every position on the New York Jets besides quarterback. And they went, 8-9 last year?
Yeah. No, 7-10. They were 7-4, and then they lost 6 games in a row.
Okay, so they finished 7-10 with Zach Wilson, who I've defended a lot. I have him on my dynasty team, so that might be why I defend him a little bit
that's
more.
a bad decision.
What, to have him on my dynasty team?
Yeah.
Well,
He's not even going to be on an NFL team, Mike.
I traded for him 2 years. I traded for him 2 years ago, and he just kind of sits on the bench now because hey, you never know. But
he's not going to be on an NFL team in 2 months. He doesn't need to be on your dynasty.
He might stick around as the Jets' backup quarterback. Don't him and Aaron Rodgers have a relationship?
I can't imagine he would want to do that.
What's the alternative?
It's actually smart if you're the Jets. Request a trade.
Yeah, I suppose. But anyway, point being, the Jets have weapons just about everywhere. There are two young wide receivers in Eli Moore and Garrett Wilson are awesome. One quality running back because James Robinson is going to be on his way. But Breece Hall coming off the ACL, but was awesome until he got hurt last year. They have a solid offensive line. I believe Elijah Vera Tucker will be back. I believe who's the Mekhi Becton will be back.
Yeah.
Their defense is stacked. Sauce Gardner.
We'll see what they give up because in a lot of these trades, right? In the Russell Wilson deal last year, Noah Fant got dealt. What? You're not doing what?
I thought you were going to go the Sauce Gardner route for a second.
No, they're not going to trade Sauce Gardner.
Okay, because Colin Cowherd said that the other day, and it was.
Did he really? That's a stupid take. No.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Continue. I do think they're going to end up dealing somebody worth something though, because like in the Russell Wilson deal, Noah Fant got traded. We just saw why do I always blank on this guy's name in every context? Yes, thank you. DJ Moore got traded in that trade for the Panthers to move up to number 1 pick. So maybe it's Elijah Moore. We know he hasn't been super happy with the Jets, but they're still going to be good. They still have the weapons, like you said, but I do think it's going to be interesting to see who is the player they move to get Rodgers. I would assume it's going to be the 13th pick and a decent player off their offense. I would assume that's going to be the basis of the package.
Yeah, I would agree. And shout out Murph, who's watching this show and just tweeted a trash gif at me about Zach Wilson. So appreciate it. Look, I know he's not great. I'm hanging my hat on him for just about no reason. But all right, let's do a rapid fire. We'll do a rapid fire free agency.
All right.
As soon as I talk about Rocket Money, Alex, we got to talk about Rocket Money because it's not only the best app as far as getting your finances in check. It's one of the best apps that really is on the App Store and Google Play Store. When you're looking at subscriptions and things like that, and all they say is, try it free for 30 days, and then, we'll give it to you for free. Well, that never happens, and it's just enough time where you download the subscription, you put your credit card in, you subscribe to the service, then you stop using it, completely forget about it, and then they just drain your bank account. Before you know it's even happening, you're paying for the subscription and you're not even using it. With Rocket Money, you can change that in just a few quick taps. Most Americans think that they're spending $80 a month on subscriptions, when really they're spending $200 or more every single month. That's crazy, especially when you're not using the things. You have ESPN Plus and you have, Hulu and Netflix. And if you're using it, great. But a lot of the times you're using these subscriptions, or you're paying for these subscriptions and you're not even using them, which, it's crazy. But not now with Rocket Money, you won't be doing that anymore. Rocket Money, formerly known as Truebill, is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills all in one place. What the app does is quickly and easily identifies all the subscriptions that you pay for. It helps you decide the ones that you don't want to use anymore. All you got to do is press cancel, and Rocket Money takes care of the rest. It's super easy. Big cancel button on the screen. Boom. No more money being drained. Over 3 million people have used Rocket Money, and they're saving the average person $720 a year. I'm sure, as many of you know, if you follow me on Twitter, my second favorite sport behind NFL, it's college basketball. I tweet about it. I bet on it. And it's awesome. And ESPN Plus is a blessing. It's awesome because I have it. I use it religiously. I pay for it. And it's all good. But I also have had Hulu and Spotify and Disney Plus, countless other subscriptions that I stopped using, but I was paying for. As soon as I got Rocket Money, I stopped using them. It's that simple. Saves you money. So stop throwing that money away. Cancel all those unnecessary subscriptions. Manage your expenses the easy way, by going to rocketmoney.com/PatsBeat. You can see it below us, rocketmoney.com/PatsBeat, rocketmoney.com/PatsBeat. Stop with those unnecessary subscriptions now. All right, rapid fire. We'll go back and forth. We'll talk about everything else that happened in the NFL today before we get out of here. And we can start with Jimmy Garoppolo. Alex, I want to hear about it. I want to hear your take. the Raiders, and Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler. 3-year, $64 million and 30 plus guaranteed for Jimmy G, who has only played 16 games in an NFL season once. So I'm going to give you the soapbox on this one because you're not a Jimmy G guy, so I want to hear your take.
It's a really expensive bridge contract. That's what it should be. Josh McDaniels can't, because this is his career. It has to work this year. And I'm sorry, I'd rather have Derek Carr than Jimmy Garoppolo. Would absolutely rather have Derek Carr than Jimmy Garoppolo, along with the dead cap hit you took by cutting Derek Carr. This is his, if I'm ownership and Jimmy Garoppolo bails out, I'm like, what are you doing? And the same goes for Dave Ziegler. What exactly is your plan here?
Right.
We had a franchise quarterback. You paid him a year ago. You then cut him. You then made me commit $30 million to another quarterback who can't get on the field. You don't look like you have any sense of direction. If it's a bridge contract, I still think we have to consider them taking a quarterback at 7. And maybe that money's front loaded. Jimmy's the bridge guy this year, and then they can move on from him after this year. That has to be the plan. Anything short of that, Josh is setting himself up to fail. Because Jimmy Garoppolo's not the guy. We've seen time and time and time again. How many chances has he had, Mike, to prove that he's a franchise quarterback, and he has failed every single test? He's not the guy. You would think Josh McDaniels, of all people, would know it. But here we go again.
So what I push back on is it's the skills. It's not his play that's the bad part of Jimmy Garoppolo. It's the fact that he just can't stay on the field. And time again, he's proven that he can't stay on the field. He hasn't proven that he's a bad quarterback. You put a quality offense and a quality system around Jimmy Garoppolo, he's going to win you games. He's going to get you to a Super Bowl when he's healthy. One healthy season, one Super Bowl appearance for Jimmy Garoppolo. You have Josh McDaniels, who has worked with Jimmy before. You add him to an offense that he knows, and you surround him with Darren Waller. You surround him with Josh Jacobs. You surround him with Devontae Adams. You surround him with Hunter Renfrow. That's a recipe for success with Jimmy Garoppolo. If he's healthy, they're a quality team. They're an above 500 team. Does that get you to the playoffs? I don't know. The AFC West is the best division in football. They have the reigning Super Bowl champion. They have arguably the top 3 quarterback in Justin Herbert in the division as well. It's not easy, but I don't hate the move if Jimmy can stay healthy. I don't know if you can rely on that, which is why I don't like the money involved. I think they gave him way too much money to guarantee a guy $30+ million on a contract where he's, like I said, only played one healthy season. That's tough. But the one time he did it, he went to a Super Bowl. So feels a little bit like a catch-22. But I don't hate it if he's healthy because the one time he was healthy, he went to a Super Bowl with a good supporting cast.
All right, first of all, you're underselling the supporting cast. You said if Jimmy Garoppolo's healthy, he'll win you games. Does he win you games or does he just not lose you games? Because I think it's the second one, and I think you can get quarterbacks who don't lose you games for a hell of a lot cheaper than $30 whatever million. You can get one with literally the last pick in the draft.
So what would you have done?
Would have signed a much cheaper bridge quarterback, and I can't remember exactly. Teddy Bridgewater, even Mike White.
Oh,
I like that. And then use the 7th pick on the next guy. With the idea that you're handing it over to that guy this year. Mike, Jimmy Garoppolo, you know how many games Jimmy Garoppolo started in his career?
Not off the top of my head.
57.
Okay.
This isn't even a durability thing, honestly.
Okay.
Do you know how many times Jimmy Garoppolo has turned the ball over in those 57 starts?
35.
72.
Wow, really?
When you include the fumbles, because he fumbles a ton.
Are they lost? They're lost fumbles, right? We're talking turnovers here.
I thought that's what I had. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I added lost fumbles and
it's interesting.
Interceptions. Okay. That's the guy Josh just gave $35 million. Or you could have signed other people, right? Baker. Sign Baker at that point for that money.
I'm excited for Baker with Tampa. I am. I think
you put signed yet or no? Is that a thing or are you just saying?
It's reported, and it sounds. I tweeted it yesterday, and it actually got not as bad of a reaction as I thought. But at one point in time, I was of the mindset that Baker Mayfield was a fringe top 10 quarterback when he was on his playoff run with the Browns, and then he got hurt, and then he started to not play good football. If he's healthy and has a good play caller around him, and you add him to Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, he can distribute the football to guys like that. and could return to where he was with Cleveland when they went to the playoffs that year.
Okay, so by the way, I did have slightly the wrong number on fumbles. That was fumbles, not fumbles lost. But it's still, Mike, it's still, now I got to find interceptions again. It's still 53 in 57 starts.
Yeah, that's not great.
That's not really, like, again, because if you're doing that but you're making plays, fine. I'll give you another guy they could have signed. If they don't mind a high turnover number, Jameis. Because Jameis is going to get the ball to Devontae Adams down the field. Jimmy's not doing that.
Carson Wentz?
Don't do it. We went over the same thing.
Yeah, we did.
Same thing, different hair color. That's it. If you... I just... To me, it sounds like Josh he didn't want Carr, realized he wasn't getting Rodgers or Brady, panicked, and went to something familiar. That's, to me, what it is. It's not based in football reality. He wanted to be comfortable. They've got to hit this 7th overall pick, and it has to be a quarterback.
Jimmy, again. He gets signed. He goes to a team. They bring in a guy, the 3rd overall pick in Trey Lance. Then he leaves, and now he's going to sign with Vegas, and then they're probably going to take someone.
Why do these teams that see him up close keep drafting quarterbacks high? Maybe that tells you something. Again,
they sign him. They keep him around because he's a high quality bridge quarterback.
But the way some people talk about him around here. Oh, the win! He wins. Look at the wins. He wins. It's the most misleading.
That feels a little backhanded, Alex.
Kyle Shanahan saw him up close for 2 years. This is not, by the way, it's not me telling you Jimmy Garoppolo is not a starting caliber quarterback. Kyle Shanahan saw him up close for 2 years, decided I need to give up 3 first-round picks to replace this guy.
But then they kept him for 2 years after that.
Because they drafted the wrong guy.
Yeah, I know. That's true. Imagine Mac Jones in San Francisco.
They'd probably have won a Super Bowl.
Yep, I know it. Let's move on. Let's go to... I'm just checking all the seeing if we're missing it. Well, let's do Jarrett Stidham quickly. Leaves Josh.
Right. No, we just did Jimmy Garoppolo.
Leaves Josh and signs with the Broncos. He's now going to back up Russell Wilson out in Denver. That's interesting. Is he going to back him up or is he going to start over him, Alex?
I mean, he's going to back him up to start, but it's a new coach now. Not, by the way, not tied to Russell Wilson. Look, I don't think Russell Wilson's losing that job because the contract's absurd, but he's going to play some.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson's going to get benched. I don't think he's going to get benched as a starter, but like he's not going to finish games. We saw it last year. He's older. He's a risk to get hurt. It's a great spot for Jarrett Stidham. He's going to get a chance to play. Yeah. And we'll see who the Broncos end up trading, but I actually think they have some decent skill position players on offense. He might get a chance to succeed there. So I don't know that he has as much talent around him as he did in Vegas when he kind of put on that showcase last year, but not a bad spot to be backup quarterback. And he got $10 million, which is decent. So
if you're a pro player, that's what it's all about. You play a few games, you play a couple starts, you make some you throw one pass to Devontae Adams for like a 60-yard touchdown, and you make yourself $10 million. So good for Jarrett Stidham there. Chase Winovich going to the Texans, Alex. Former Patriot, reuniting with former Patriot executive Nick Caserio. What do you think? I'm just kind of scrolling through my tweet notifications from Rappaport and Schefter now, pulling up these things. So if you have anything else, but what do you think of Chase Winovich?
I just think Nick Caserio is probably going to give all his draft picks another shot, see who works out, see if he can N'Keal Harry's going to end up there.
Yeah, he will.
Right? Like that's got to happen. So makes sense. Chase Winovich goes to a Patriots adjacent team. Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. Let's do the massive one, and it's Tremaine Edmunds from Buffalo. He's only 24, I believe.
Sounds right.
Because he came in the league when he was 19, which in its own right was crazy. He was the youngest player in the league, but him and his brother. But in Buffalo for the last 4 or 5 years, and just signed a 4-year, $72 million deal with the Chicago Bears. $50 million guaranteed. It's the largest 4-year contract for a linebacker or an inside linebacker, which he kind of plays all over the place, but in the NFL. So Ryan Pace in Chicago has been kind of killing it. If you think about it this way, I thought the trade with we haven't even talked about that trade on the show, so we'll loop that into it because the Bears traded the number 1 overall pick for a haul. And I think that was I thought it was a high quality move for them because they don't need a quarterback. They were able to trade down and they got a ton. They got a wide receiver, DJ Moore, for Justin Fields. Now they go sign Trey Edmonds. It's a lot of money, but I think it's worth it. Ryan Poles is making some moves. So what do you make of that one?
Yeah, the Bear, like, don't look now. The Bears are having an excellent offseason. This is, by the way, how you support a young quarterback. This is how you invest in a young quarterback.
Who's Ryan Pace? I'm looking at the chat. I call them Ryan Pace. It's Ryan Poles. Is Ryan Pace
was the old GM?
Ah, yes, it was. Okay.
They fired their GM and coach, and then they hired GM and coach with the same first names.
Yes, that's right.
The owner was old and didn't want to have to learn new names.
Yeah. Ryan Poles is making the moves, not Ryan Pace. You guys are right. Thank you, chat.
Yeah, building around the young quarterback. They're doing a good job of it. I still think they probably need at least another pass catcher, but I thought they made a great move to trade that pick. And at first, like, moving down to 9, but they get a first this year, first next year. I thought getting a receiver was a great pull for them. So they've been excellent. Again, it's textbook how you build around a young quarterback.
Well, did they give Trey Edmonds too much?
No, they had a ton of money to spend. You got to remember, you really just look at the cap hit on the first year of these deals, because beyond that, like that Patrick Mahomes deal, we're like, oh my God, he got $50 million a year. Now that's like a great quarterback contract because the price goes up every year. So you can give a player too much. It's a lot more rare than people realize, though. And it's not necessarily about the total money. It's about how you spread it out. That's what was the issue with the Jonnu Smith contract. It's not just that they gave him so much money. It was backloaded. And they did it because they knew the cap was going to spike this year with the TV deal. They did it with a lot of those contracts. Matthew Judon's contract set up the same way. I believe Kendrick Bourne's contract set up the same way. And like at the time, it made sense because, again, the cap was going to spike. But all right, well, if backloading contracts so great, why doesn't every team do it? This is why. Because if the contract turns out to be a bad contract, you can't get out of it. Whereas if you front load it, all the money's off the books. It's a lot easier to get out of down the road. So that, I mean, I didn't see exactly how the money was broken up, but for the best linebacker on the market, they overpaid a little bit with some extra money to spend. In the moment, I don't think that's a bad contract.
I agree. And like you said, when you have money to spend and when you have a guy who, in Trey Edmonds, started in the league at 19, he's only 24 years old. You can get him on a four-year deal for, it's a lot of money, right? But you have to pay for good players. That's what this league's about. Good players cost a lot of money. Patrick Mahomes, best player in the league. I mean, it was worth it. It was a good contract at the time, and now, he's not the highest paid, whatever. But you got to pay for good players when you have them, and Trey Edmonds is a damn good player. So, like you said, you're right. The Chicago Bears are making moves. Any more free agency moves that you can think of that we can touch on? Chat, you can throw them in as well if you want something to talk about. But then we have some Patriots news to talk about at the end of the show as well. But can you think of anything more?
No, I mean, I saw right when we came on, Bobby Okereke signed 4 years, $40 million.
Patrick Peterson goes to the Steelers.
Yeah, so that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
A
little on the older
good
side.
Player. Yeah, a little on the
player. You're right.
To replace Cam Sutton, I think was what that move was. No, it's been a real the Niners signing Hargrave was interesting. They had one big contract in them, and they used it on the defensive line, which is probably their best position group. Like, I was like, all right, wow, they're just rubbing it in now.
Yeah, but I kind of like it. You just add to it. Like, they're just nasty there anyway, and you just add the best guy on the market there. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah.
The other Niners move was actually Sam Darnold goes to the 49ers to replace Jimmy Garoppolo.
All right. And he was never seen again.
Yeah, were they connected to each other before, Kyle Shanahan and Sam Darnold, at some point for some reason? I feel like that's been talked about before, them two matching up, and I don't know why.
Do they maybe have a pick? Did Shanahan have a high pick that year? Maybe he was. Because his brother's in New York.
Oh, the LaFleur brother.
Oh no, LaFleur's in New York. Yeah, I don't know, something like that.
Whatever. Well, Sam Darnold is replacing Jimmy G essentially in San Francisco. I saw a tweet today. It was they had the third pick a few years ago. They had the third pick a few years ago before that in Sam Darnold and Trey Lance. And the Mr. Irrelevant pick from 2 years ago, Brock Purdy, is probably going to start over both of them he's healthy.
Right.
So that's good stuff. All right, let's finish off this show, Alex, with some Patriots news that we heard this weekend. And I would say unfortunate, but we knew it was coming. I would say Devin McCourty. Not that we knew it was coming. It was still up in the air, but Devin McCourty retiring from the NFL after 13 seasons. He was a captain for 12 years. He was a dominant free safety in the league for them. I believe he was a 3-time Super Bowl champion. He was a Pro Bowler at 2 positions. Played cornerback his rookie year, earned a Pro Bowl spot, and then switched to safety and played 12 more years at safety and was one of the best to do it in the league. So not only are they going to miss him on the field as a good player, but he was their leader. Him and Slater were really the two guys, especially ever since Tom Brady left, that ran the Patriots from an inside the locker room perspective. And that's going to be a tough loss, especially off the field. But Devin McCourty retires.
Yeah, I mean it's a big loss. Obviously, a guy who was a cornerstone of 3 Super Bowl championships, and you look at it, there's only like 7 guys left on the team who've won a ring.
Yeah,
which is kind of crazy to think about. And a guy that was instrumental in turning things around there in the early 2000s. You go back to those drafts with him, Hightower, Chandler Jones, Julian Edelman, Matthew Slater, Rob Gronkowski, right? Really not many of those guys left yet. So just another sign that the new core kind of needs to start to establish itself.
Yeah. It's tough. Like you said, they're going to have which I'm excited for, a Devin McCourty ceremony next Tuesday.
So it was supposed to be tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then with the snow, they're doing it next week now.
Yeah. So Devin McCourty retiring, they're going to do a retirement ceremony for him next week at Gillette Stadium. So I will be there. I'm sure Alex will be there as well. So, yeah. And so the other Patriots news that we do want to touch on as well, punter Jake Bailey was released from the Patriots last week on Friday as well. Jake Bailey, man, what a fall from grace for Jake Bailey. A guy who was an All-Pro 2 years ago, just signed an extension this season, or prior to the season, was put on IR, was then suspended, and then he was released, Alex. So they need a punter. They're not going to go with Michael Pilardi, I don't think. Your guy Michael Turk is a guy in the draft. Maybe they signed someone, I don't know, but Jake Bailey, man, he was a really good punter for maybe this long. I don't know how you can quantify that in terms of time, but he was there for
a year.
Yeah, he was there for a second, and then the wheels fell off. But what do you think of that move?
It doesn't surprise me, just given just given everything that had happened. I would be surprised if they sign a punter here. Me too. Punters are just going to be cheaper in the draft. Taking a guy even in the 4th or 5th round is automatically cheaper than the veteran minimum. My guess is they're going to draft a guy somewhere in the 4th, 5th, 6th round. I don't think they wait all the way. I don't think they go with the UDFA. I like Bryce Behringer too from Michigan State, Adam Korsick from Rutgers. Those are kind of the 3 guys to know. I'm going to guess they draft somebody and then maybe they bring in a veteran who's still unsigned in the summer. Yeah. Just to compete in camp, just push the rookie a little bit, maybe a guy out of the XFL or USFL or something. Yep. But my guess is this is going to be a draft address need. I would be surprised if they add a punter here in the next couple of days.
I think so too. I think it's going to be a draft thing. Maybe Pilardi is their other veteran move, but
maybe Pilardi's the guy they bring back. That's a fair point, but they don't need to make that move until well after the draft. They don't need to make that move. They can make that move the morning of the first OTA practice if they want.
Yeah, seriously.
Kind of the timeline for that.
Yeah, fair point. I do want to bring up one last thing in the chat that I just saw. Tomorrow, we're going to be back tomorrow as well, guys. So those of you who are tuning in, we're going to be back tomorrow night as well to do basically the same thing, recap any Tuesday moves. So make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, Patriots Press Pass. Subscribe on all your podcast platforms and follow us on Twitter to make sure that you know when we're going to go live. But the last thing I just wanted to bring up was James Bradbury, cornerback. I think that can be a move for the Patriots still, depending on what they want to do with John Jones in the safety room and Jalen Mills and all that. Only because, and I wanted to touch on it now because it could happen, I guess, prior to tomorrow's show that either Bradbury goes somewhere else or the Patriots make the move. The one thing on Bradbury is last year he signed sort of that prove-it deal after getting cut from the Giants. I think it was 1 year for $7 million. He goes to the Eagles. He becomes an All-Pro. He goes to the Super Bowl and, proves himself to be worth it. Whether that was just contract year play, whether that's, again, that's your ceiling is the way you play in your contract year for a lot of guys. But He's long. He's 6'1", so he'd immediately come in to be the longest corner in the room, which I think would be a good addition at the end of the day. And he's, I want to say 29, so a little on the
29, yeah.
older side. 29, so he's a little on the older side, but he's not in a different positions, but he's not as old as a guy like Jordan Poyer, who's 31. So depending on where you want to move your guys around in the defensive back room, I still think that this could be one of their splash moves is James Bradberry.
Yeah, the one thing I'd say is I do think they want to draft a cornerback. And now the numbers are, you got John Jones, Jalen Mills. Okay, let's say one of them moves to safety. John Jones or Jalen Mills is one player. Mm-hmm. Jack Jones is two. You got Miles Bryant in the slot. You add Bradberry. That's four.
Marcus
maybe
Jones.
You could swing it. Oh, Marcus Jones is five. All right, so now you're on like the sixth player.
Yeah,
that gets a little tough. I think I butchered that math, but I feel like they had room to add one veteran corner, and bringing back John Jones to me fills that spot. I wouldn't be it wouldn't necessarily be a bad move. I just don't necessarily. I think they want to add a corner in the draft with a premium pick, and it gets really tough to justify that if you also sign Bradberry.
Fair point. All right, Alex. Well, anything else to add on this free agency Monday before we go back to our Twitter fingers and keep waiting for moves and see what happens till tomorrow?
I think it's until tomorrow. Just hang in there.
Yes.
There's a lot of free agency left to go. There's a lot of offseason left to go. So just be patient. Be calm. And we'll see. See what they do. It doesn't mean that they can just stand pat.
Right.
But let's see what they do. There's always tomorrow.
I think the expectation is once we saw the what happened 2 years ago on that Monday of free agency, where it was Jonnu and it was Matthew Judon, and then it was Kendrick Bourne and Nelson Aguilar, and all these things happened all at once so fast when they were ready to shell out that money. So I feel like now people are it's expected that they're gonna go do this, and I get it. Right. And now they had the money again, so people want them to go do it again, and I get it. But a little bit of a slower, less impressive class, maybe I'd say, and just a slower cycle in general. So look, it's not even legal. You can't even sign your contracts yet. So I would agree with you, Alex. Be patient. Before we get out of here, I do want to shout out our brand new sponsor, FanDuel. Once again, we're betting on sports in Massachusetts. It's amazing. The app's the best. Download it now. Go to this URL, fanduel.com/Boston. Sign up, deposit $10, bet $5, and then you get $200 in free bets. It's super easy. You can go do it all. Live bet the Celtics right now if you want to. You can do anything with it. $200 free bets. Get yourself situated on FanDuel with a bunch of free bets. Try and make some money and continue sports betting because it is now legal in Massachusetts and you can do it through FanDuel. So make sure to go to fanduel.com/Boston for $200 in bonus bets on us here at CLNS Media. So with that being said, thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate it. We're going to talk free agency all week this week on Patriots Beat. We'll be back tomorrow night to do the same exact thing. Until then, follow us on Twitter at RealAlexBarth and at Mike Kadlick, as well as reading all of our free agency and Patriots coverage at 98.5 The Sports Hub for him and at clnsmedia.com for me. So, again, until tomorrow night, thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate the support. Go to fanduel.com/Boston for $200 in bonus bets, and we will see you tomorrow night.